Hi, my name is Patrick Klemaszewski. I am a third year MArch1 student at UTSOA. I'm here with Mónica Juvera and Boris Bežan. Their practice is BAX Studio based in Barcelona. Mónica is originally from Mexico and Boris is from Slovenia, and they are visiting professors this semester. It's a great pleasure to be with them today.
Thank you.
And so for the UT lecture series, we've been kind of starting off with the question, where do you find unexpected joy in architecture in your practice?
I go. Yeah, well, the joy, I think the architecture is one profession that keeps you somehow, at least ourselves, quite passionate about it. So we do it with a lot of passion. Sometimes we discuss a lot and we argue and so on. So this is kind of joy, I think, that somehow I think it's present, no, and somehow in our view of profession that it's not something technical or something repetitive, but it's something that always brings you new challenges, you have to find always the answer. So it's somehow ongoing investigation, testing, sometimes even problems and so on. But everything still, it's quite passionate about that. So we are not getting bored, never.
For me, unexpected, I think that because we develop competitions, we have a competition area. For me, it's interesting that over the years, I found a lot of joy working with people in the team, and I think I'm learning from them. It doesn't matter who is there, and because maybe when I was younger, I was more competitive in this way that you want to be better than the other student or these things, but not anymore. For me, it's not interesting, this part, and it's really, really interesting to work with people, like working with you on your projects in the studio, and I have a lot of fun with it.
So you said you guys argue a lot. Is that because you
What?
argue?
Ah.
Right, it's never boring.
Yeah.
Do you think you guys are both always taking a different position or coming from a different perspective?
Well, we are coming to, well, not totally different position. Also, somehow, it's always there are no 100% say objective things in architecture. No? There are visions from this part, visions for that part. So, and also you never know who will judge it. No? So it's not science, no, in this kind of way. No? So that's why it's always a lot of arguing, a lot of discussion, but not in a bad manner. No? It's always trying to get that. Usually, if both agree on something, that should be something that probably also maybe the third person would agree on it. No? So it's kind of more, you have more certainty arguing or discussing with other people that you are on the right path to achieve something that you are looking for.
Yeah, I suppose you need to have a connection, this vision, architecture that is similar than yours, but it's really good that it's not all similar, and that you can find another point of view, and you know and you learn how to communicate. It's not easy for me. It wasn't easy at the beginning. No? And I think we are growing in this. It's not argue. It's just a kind of work you have to do.
So do you find that that's like your studio, right? You work through competitions. So do you need to take on all those different perspectives? Like how do you know, right, that because you can only submit one idea usually, right?
Yes.
But you probably have a ton.
Yeah.
So how do you start to eliminate all those ideas that you don't find suitable?
Yeah, by arguing, discussing, no, and getting some arguments, no. So it's like you are behind one idea and you have to argue with the other person and pursue it this idea is that really it's the best, no? And he somehow it's arguing back, no? And if you somehow succeed, no, so maybe this is the good idea, and then you, but there is never a perfect idea in this world, no? So it's always getting better in the limit of the time that you have for each competition. So at the end, you get the best idea you could in that limit of the time.
Yeah, I think we are fighting all the time with time and complexity.
Time and complexity.
Yeah. It's the kind of competitions we do are not large buildings all the time, but are complex problems over there. So yeah, we have some ideas at the beginning, but you need time to reflect,
Yeah.
and we take the time. We think about, we talk a lot, not just about the ideas, but what do you understand on this place? What do you see? What do you think they are asking for this specific? We talk a lot. So I think, I don't know, the percentage of the time doing a competition we use just to think. And we really understood in the years that we have to take the first steps slowly, because that's the way that we arrive to a strong idea, something that really fits the place.
Right.
I think that's it for us.
Yeah, so that will lead me to another. So one of the mantras I feel like in studio has been simple solutions to complex problems, like you kind of just alluded to. Can you talk about maybe like specifically a project where you had to go through this kind of process?
Well, let's say, well, it's not so simple, but still maybe the last competition we will also present it on this lecture. This Kunstsilo project, we had like, I don't know, 15, 20 solutions, or almost drawn, no, all of them, and we just throw them away, and it was quite difficult to find a solution, no, and kind of simple solution, even if the end it's also not so simple, but still it was the simplest of all the possible, no, and yeah, maybe you will just see the project and judge it for yourself if it's really simple, but usually it's a process that you first try to find something that is interesting and it has also formally interesting and so on. But at the end, you somehow find it also that you make kind of cleaning up of all the ideas or getting to the point, no? And then somehow you feel that you are getting to the idea that maybe it's somehow close to the best, no? Because there is never the best idea for this problem solution in formal and functional way.
Yeah, I think there are not simple ideas.
Right.
They're really complex problems sometimes, but are the simple or the more efficient way to do something. Have a lot of possibilities. It's more about that, and we want to talk about this today. That moment when we decide to do this, that it looks very simple. Have a complex process to arrive there, and you decide to do this, then we start solving the rest with this idea or with this system. There is something that really, one thing that really fits and explain the place, explain the new use that it will have this place.
Can you usually get across that one complexly simplified idea, or how you want to put it, into one drawing? Or like, how does that work? Like, how do you try to make sure that that is so present when you submit?
Yeah, we usually try to to communicate, this simple idea to the main idea, So always there are many layers of idea, but there is usually one or maybe two ideas, because sometimes there is like an urban idea and there is some more building idea, that somehow goes together, but still they respond to both realities, somehow how to fit into the urban tissue and how to fit to all the program and all the needs or requirements that the client wants. And we usually try to show this idea in one simple diagram. That's more or less the way we try to do it. It's like kind of that if it's simple enough, then it should be it should have a simple explanation. If the explanation if you cannot explain it simply, then you still have to work on it probably.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, you have. I think this drawing, this first diagram, explains the approach applying to the jury. We were always trying to explain in this drawing what we see or how we see this place.
Right.
This is the most important, because this is the you will be able to explain the future with this. It's a vision. It's this drawing. We really work on it.
Right.
Always.
Yeah, because usually it's an idea. They are idea competition. And it's not how you will resolve the last staircase, or there will be one or two elevators or so on. So all these technical issues usually are in the background. They are not something, because anyhow the project during all the phases that will continue, it will develop, it will mold and so on. But somehow if the main idea is clear and strong, there is a guarantee that also the result at the end, it will come to the happy end, because somehow there is a strong skeleton that somehow will push this idea through all this transformation, adding all the norms, all the functional stuff, all the engineers that will come, and so on, and so on, and so on. And it's important, that the idea is strong enough to survive all this long way to the execution of the project.
Yeah, that's true. And also in competitions, the expectations the clients are quite big, and you are competing.
Right.
So it's very important. Sometimes you don't fit on the jury on the prizes, because your vision is totally different from what the jury wanted.
Right.
It's not good, it's not bad, but it's not what we want, because it's vision.
So do you always look at who the jury is and adapt a style to that, or is
no, it's a little bit impossible, because somehow we have our own way, a little bit of looking to the architecture or to the city or to the life, and we try somehow to see. But usually, more or less, if the jury it's recognized architects locally or internationally, it's good enough. So we don't find that we have to really adapt our style to the jury, at least in the environments that we are working. Of course, there is always a little bit different theoretical view to the architecture, also inside the Europe. Let's say if you are working in Switzerland, or you are working, I don't know, in Croatia or Serbia, probably it's quite different view, but somehow still there are things that are quite universal to all the architecture.
And you have to, I think we have to work on with the tools we have and on what we believe. You can fake that. It's
fake what?
You don't believe what you believe, no?
You are trying to solve a problem, or you are proposing something that you don't believe on it because you think the jury will like it.
Right.
But we just
So that's not
know how to do the things when we believe.
Yeah, I think we should be honest at the end.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So if you think, let's say,
Right.
that the view of the jury is completely opposite of your belief, then probably it's better to not do this competition, to do the other one. No? So it's simple like this now. But usually it's not a problem.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
So would you ever submit into a competition that is an architecture that you don't believe in? Or like, does that make sense?
No,
No.
You just wouldn't do it, right?
no.
Yeah.
No.
No, let's say if the competition is about who makes the most the most strange 3D forum, and we don't think that this is important, no, for the architecture, but
Yeah.
the other things, no, and well, we will not participate probably in this competition because we are also not strong in this. So
Right.
from
We are not the best.
we are not the best. Probably there are other architects that they can do it better.
We are more concerned to thinking about the city, about the identity of the places,
Mm-hmm.
what was before, what we want now.
Mhm.
We are,
No, and quality of use also for the spaces, no.
yeah.
So we try to vision how the spaces will be used and lived, no, not just once, but through the long-term time, and try to do our best, no, that this living or using of the spaces will be really rich in the future of the future users, whoever they will be.
Yeah, dialogue with the presidents, this kind. I
Mhm.
think so not all the competitions are looking for that.
Right.
So you have to select a lot of competitions, and we select this kind
Mm-hmm.
of projects.
So being that you like focus a lot of time on the urban fabric and the city, and you're based in Barcelona, but mostly, your projects are all over the place. Do you have like a go-to methodology for understanding where you're building, or do you just have to, do you always follow the same protocol to understand the place that you're building? Or
Well,
is it-
we try to do quite a lot of analysis, or if you want to say it, investigation, but I think it's more analysis of the place, and also from culture and cultural background, no, and let's say in Europe it's quite normal that, let's say, the German architects usually don't win the housing competition in France, no, because there are some cultural rules that are not written, no, and you can follow all the norms and everything, but still there are some cultural things, how the people live, how they use, how they look to the dwelling and how to look to the house. They are somehow locally specific, so it's important to know these things, no? And then of course there are also technical stuff, like it's different to construct in Finland with harsh winters than to the south of Spain, where the spaces can be much more open and you can propose other type of architecture. Let's say we know that, for example, to propose a light well in the Sweden or Finland, it doesn't have a lot of sense because most of the light comes horizontally, So these kind of things you should be aware, like an architect, and of course, always it's better to somehow team up with local architects already in the competition phase, because they have this kind of all the cultural baggage and knowledge that somehow we are sometimes incapable to know.
So, what before you started BAX, what kind of offices did you work in? Did you work in competition-based firms? Were you working commission-based or more typical structure?
Well, I worked in Matteo office for Jose Luis Matteo, for 5 years in Barcelona. Actually, I came to Barcelona to do some kind of practice, and I just stayed in this because I was actually working on international projects all around the Europe. And for me it was interesting because I was learning part that I somehow didn't get through the school, which was how to deal with all the organization and all the planning and all the execution of the project. So the part that I found somehow was missing, no? When I was when I finished my studies. And then we teamed up with another Mexican couple. Actually, we met together in the same office. And with them, we won first big competition in 2005, and we started an office now. So we were doing then another competition, won some of them, and so on. Somehow continued the office, and 1 year and a half ago, we separated our paths, and so I and Monica, we started our own practice, obviously. But still, we have a lot of projects going on together, and so somehow we still maintain the network of with other offices, and somehow this is more or less the way that we can do this kind of quite big projects for a kind of smaller company that we are.
Yeah, I went to Barcelona because I was interested in landscape architecture, and I was interested in understanding how architecture could touch the city in a different way that I knew at that moment. And so I made this master's degree, and it was really good for me. It was
in landscape architecture.
in landscape architecture, but it's the approach in the School of Barcelona. It's a mix of urbanistic landscape. We weren't doing gardens.
Okay.
So it was really good, at least for me. It was really, really, there were people that didn't like it because it was not too much botanic there.
Right.
But the bigger scale, we were working on it, and it was really good for me. And then I was working on small offices, doing studios, doing small projects in architecture, also something from gardening, also sometimes. It was mixed, my practice over there. But for me, the most important part of arriving to Barcelona was understanding that this connection of the public buildings, or the public use of the buildings, like museums, etc., could touch the city or could connect to the city in a different way. That was connected with the landscape architecture understood on the side of the city. It was, to me, was the most important lecture, lesson I had over there. And then we make the way over there, and all of us had a different baggage. So this connection and listening to the other dialect, and this trying to understand what the other one is looking at, the European point of view too. All this, for me, made sense in that moment. I was really looking for that complement, for ethical complement.
Lovely.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Look forward to the lecture.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.